the biggest threat to South Carolina?
The biggest threat to South Carolina is South Carolina. There is not another team that is a threat to South Carolina if South Carolina plays their best basketball. The issue with South Carolina is there have been times, their head coach Dawn Staley talks about the standard. There have been times where South Carolina gets off to slow starts. They don't play up to their standard individually or as a team. Say they're settling for jump shots. They're not taking good shots. That is when South Carolina, to me, is the most vulnerable. If another team is going to knock off South Carolina, they're going to need some help from the Gamecocks. If they're struggling to hit shots, that is probably the biggest thing. In that game against Tennessee, I'm going to give Tennessee a little bit of credit here. Tennessee hit 8 threes. South Carolina hit 2. South Carolina still went on to hit one more at the end with Camila Cardoso and got the win. So you know South Carolina's living right, because stuff like that doesn't just happen for anybody. But if they're not taking great shots, if they're struggling to hit shots, taking bad ones, that's where I think South Carolina is vulnerable. Their biggest threat is themselves.
Andre, I don't disagree with you because, I mean, that woman Dawn Staley is something spectacular. We all know this to be true. But if you're going to point to somewhat of a problem with them scoring, is it somebody like Cailtin Clark in Iowa something to be worried about, considering the fact that she led the nation in both scoring and assists? They lost in the national championship last year. They've got the horses to possibly pull it off and get back to that kind of situation this go round. What about them?
Well, Cailtin Clark is a threat to everybody with the way that she can cross half court. She might not even have to cross half court before she could knock down three-point shots. So she is a threat. My issue, Stephen A., and here's the thing. I don't know what the committee was dealing with or had going on when they set up these brackets. South Carolina is the #1 overall seed. They earned a slightly easier route. Iowa's the #2 overall seed. Their region is the most difficult region. So Iowa and Cailtin Clark, they'll of course be a threat to South Carolina because the way Cailtin can go off and create magic on the court is something we have never seen before. But Iowa's got to get there first, and I've got some concerns there. So yes, I hear you, Stephen A., but when I'm looking at this bracket in this region, again, I don't know why they decided to give Iowa this difficult of a path, but they've got to get there first.
Yeah, South Carolina has to use their size. They have Cardoso. They have a couple of young ladies that are probably six. I think Cardoso is 6'7". They have another young lady that's 6'4", and they probably need to play inside out. The thing that Iowa and USC has is that they have two young ladies that can go get their own shot. Juju Watkins can go create her own shot. Cailtin Clark can create her own shot. And so South Carolina needs to move the ball, play inside and out. Now, they can get up and down with that young point guard they have. She was sensational. But I agree with you, Andrea. If South Carolina plays like South Carolina, they're going to be very difficult to beat because there's very few teams that can match up with them size-wise. They can dominate inside. Now, if they start hitting shots, it's good night, Irene. But that's the thing. And you know, in an NCAA tournament game where it's one game, it's not a series, it's one game, and there is no tomorrow, anything can happen, and nerves can get the best of you. Now, South Carolina has been there and done that. But it's going to be hard for me to pick against South Carolina, but with these two young ladies, Juju Watkins and Cailtin Clark, that can go get you 30, can go get you 40. In a women's college game, when two females can go off like that, all bets are off.
You know, honestly, Shannon, one of the best things that could have possibly happened to USC when you talk about Juju Watkins was they won that Pac-12 tournament where Juju Watkins struggled from the field. I mean, it was Mackenzie Forbes who popped off for 26 points. They had to step up and get that win for Juju Watkins. So even having her on the floor, watching her other teammates step up and put points on the board, that was really impressive to me. The issue with South Carolina is they bring in Mylasia Fulwiley off the bench, who just won the SEC MVP Player of the Year, just signed with the Curry brand. So it's the depth of South Carolina. Yes, Juju is amazing. Yes, her teammates stepped up for her when they went on to win the Pac-12. But South Carolina's got players that could rotate in, and it could be anyone's night on any day.
Stephen A., not to cut you off, Steve. Can I see that bracket again? Are those teams really in Iowa's bracket? LSU and, hold on.
Yes.
UCLA, LSU, all of those are in their bracket.
That's right.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's where I was going, Shannon. That's where I was going. I don't understand this. You know, we're in television right now, all right? You gotta you gotta appeal to the audience and box office. Me, Shannon, me, Andrea, here's the deal. I'm making sure LSU, The reigning defending national champions, by the way, led by Angel Reese, 28-5 on the season, just damn near got in the fisticuffs with South Carolina. I'm making sure them, South Carolina, and Iowa are nowhere within the vicinity of each other so I can have the possibility of all of them being in the Final Four, okay? That's what you're talking about, theater. I don't know what these committee members were thinking by putting Iowa and LSU in the same bracket, but I want to ask you this, Andrea. We haven't talked about LSU enough. They are the reigning defending national champions.
Yep.
Why are we not doing that?
I don't know why we haven't talked about LSU enough because, listen, when it comes to this LSU team, you mentioned Angel Reese. She's got a right-hand woman who she gives credit to named Anissa Morrow, who is just as much of a beast.
16 to 10 a
Angel
game.
Reese and Anissa Morrow, they are incredible. They combine for 35 points and 20 rebounds. So keeping that dynamic duo at bay is going to be a tall task for anyone. And then LSU's 3 starting guards, that's Flau'jae Johnson right there. Big foe is what they call her. The 3 starting guards combined for 40. This is a high-octane scoring team. My issue with LSU is their depth. If they get last-tier Poa back, if Michaela Williams is healthy, she's a freshman who can score. If they've got full health, LSU is a dangerous team. They have so many weapons. And to go back to the bracket, Stephen A., that right side of the bracket where we just saw all those teams, just to make a comparison that I think this audience would understand, the right side of the bracket is the Western Conference in the NBA. There are so many contenders. There's a small margin of differences when it comes to those teams. Anybody could win it. Anybody could take somebody out. It's the Western Conference. That's what it is. That is the right side of the bracket. I don't know why Iowa's over here or why LSU. Somebody should have been moved to the left side, but this right side is insane.
No, that's a great analogy. Andrea, let me ask you this. Do you think Iowa and LSU meet in the Elite Eight?
I do think I have them meeting. As I look here at my bracket, I have Iowa and LSU there. But let me just say, Iowa's got to go through a Kansas State team that they split with in the regular season. Yep. Kansas State beat Iowa by 7 at home. Iowa went on to beat Kansas State at a neutral site. Both teams have gotten better since then. That was early in the season. So Iowa's got to face a familiar opponent potentially if Kansas State gets through. Iowa could also face Colorado. The Pac-12 has been crazy. Colorado is a really good team. Iowa kicked Colorado out of the tournament last season. So there's a lot of spiciness here. I do have Iowa and LSU meeting, but again, Iowa's got some tough, as if Cailtin Clark needed a bigger chip on her shoulder, as if Iowa needed more motivation. The committee gives them this region. They've got some tough ones to get through, but I do think they meet in the Elite Eight.
Shannon, let me jump in here one more time, if you don't mind. Andrea, you know I'm a homer. I know there's.
I knew it was coming.
You knew it was. You knew it was. I'm just curious. All right, I get it. It's not their year, but what do you think the ceiling is for UConn?
Molly, here's my thing.
Tell me.
UConn, there's a chance if Paige Beckers is lights out and Aaliyah Edwards plays that dominant game, and the 2 freshmen step up and play really well, Ashlyn Shea, KK Arnold. They could maybe get to a Final Four. Their ceiling for me is an Elite Eight. The Elite Eight is the ceiling. I think those 2 freshmen, they're great, but they've been inconsistent. Paige Beckers and Nika Mule are great ball handlers, but to me, they need one more consistent scoring guard. They need one more guard that can just go get a bucket at any time. So for me, I have UConn at the Elite Eight. They might have to face an Ohio State team that broke your heart last season when they forced 25 turnovers for UConn. So that could, that could be a tough one. So UConn ceiling's the Elite Eight. A surprise would be the Final Four. I wouldn't be surprised for the Sweet 16 if they get bounced.
Molly, I think the thing for you, the mere fact that UConn is the number 3 seed, when we've only ever seen them as 1 and 2 seeds, kind of lets you know that this is not the UConn of old. They don't have the same. And I think one of their best players ended up going down with a knee injury early in the year. Now, if they had her, they're getting to the Final Four. But because they don't. And so that's one of my concerns with UConn. But I don't count Coach Oriema out. He knows how to coach. He knows how to get his teams ready to play. And I think with the LSU thing, I thought they would have a better record than 29-5 is nothing to sneeze at. Yeah. But when you bring all your young ladies back and you get the transfer from Louisville, I just thought they would have more of a record like South Carolina. Maybe they meet and they split 1-1, one win on one side, the other win in the SEC championship. I'm surprised they lost as many games as they did and some of the margins in which they lost by.
What I want most, I want so badly, I want a rematch with LSU and South Carolina.
Oh,
but
yeah, that'd be epic.
But I also want LSU. I want to see them against Cailtin Clark again. I want to see what happens, and I'm afraid I'm not going to get the kind of stuff that I want.
Yeah.
Andrea, I feel like there's so much excitement around this tournament in the women's game right now. And It's just been incredible. There's so much star power, so many storylines. So can't wait for it. We're going to let you roll. Thank you for breaking it all down with excellence as always. What's your final 4 picks?
My final 4, oh, this one was tough. I debated for a while because I knew I was going to get asked this question all day long. I've got South Carolina, I've got Texas, LSU, and USC. Okay. I've got Juju leading her team out of their region. I have LSU. We mentioned Angel Reese and Anissa Morrow, that dynamic duo. Texas was my sleeper team a couple weeks ago, so I'm going to stay consistent. I know sometimes people come on here and switch up their takes. I'm going to stay consistent with my take when I look at this bracket.